National Stadium. It is on a first come, first serve basis. There will be no preferential treatment for anybody. Persons who access the app will be allowed the opportunity once they meet the requirements that have been set out. The app is a game changer, and we believe that it will help to manage the various events, and we are anticipating that once this app is rolled out and we have seen the benefits of it, then we will be using this going forward for events, not just sporting events, but other events where we consider the safety of persons who want to go to these events. So I am confident that the Jamaica Football Federation will ensure, and based on the meetings that we have been having, that they will ensure that we make this work. This is a test case. It's the first time we'll be using this kind of initiative in any sporting event in Jamaica, and I am happy that it is a game against the United States at the office that will kickstart this entertainment authorization system. So, as I said before, in a couple minutes or so, we will have a demonstration of this new app, and that on Wednesday morning, 7 a.m., the system will be fully activated, where 5,000 tickets will become available for fully vaccinated persons only. And I want to emphasize that, and I know when the Minister of Health comes to the microphone and is accompanied by the expert on vaccination, they will explain further what is required. So, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, these are my opening comments for now, and I will now ask Mr. Fagan to come and to take us to the next phase of this press briefing.
Thank you very much, Minister McKenzie. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has been a critical partner with the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development in exercising the authority to manage the pandemic under the Disaster Risk Management Act. And so I now call on the Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. the Honorable Christopher Tufton, to address you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Colleague Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Minister McKenzie. My apologies again for being late, but kind of went to the wrong location. I understand that Minister Babsy Grange, Minister of Sports, may be online, so I recognize her if she is, and her team. I want to recognize also the JFF President, Mr. Ricketts. Good to see you, sir, and other members of the JFF, which I'm sure are in the audience. My team at the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, I'm in your building, and I just want to recognize your minister, but the team, who I know supports him well. Thank you very much for having us. My team at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, I want to particularly mention Dr. Espinosa, who is a critical part of the planning leading to this phase. Dr. Ennis, of course, in charge of our immunization program. anything vaccination, she's the lady to go to, including the complaints, by the way. And Mr. Everton Baker, who is a big part of our environmental health and safety makeup, and Stephen, who is the communication. So just recognizing them and to say that they have done a lot of work to get us to this point. I mean, we make the announcement, they do the work, right, Minister? Almost. We provide some guidance also periodically. So I want to just say that this is a real momentous occasion, and the Minister who has really led the charge on this, Minister McKenzie, he is under his portfolio, has championed this cause. And I want to mention also and recognize Minister Grange, because she too, and we have really just tried to facilitate by giving them the support, by giving them some guidance and advice based on the threat that we face, the health threat, and how we can overcome that health threat. So I want to recognize him, recognize Minister Grange for the work, and to say that they have provided the leadership on this issue, and rightfully so. The challenge, of course, has been the risk associated with COVID and the fact that it is a people-to-people transmission risk. And, you know, once you congregate, you run the risk of spread. And the more you spread is the more you hospitalize. The more you hospitalize is the more deaths you get. But the victims of this, or the side effects of the measures to reduce spread, has obviously been your favorite activities, whether it is football or otherwise, have gotten thrown to the curve. And I can just imagine the trauma, right, Mr. Ricketts, that persons like yourself, but more so the players and the spectators have gone through, even though I see you have done some creative things there with the televised events, which I think is a winner and should continue in the future at a lovely location at the University of the West Indies. But we as a government, Minister McKenzie said, are at a point where, you know, the 924,129 doses of vaccines administered, 543,000 single, 330,000 second, and 50,000 fully vaccinated based on the one-dose jab, the J&J. We are at a point where we believe, as a cabinet, that enough time has passed to give the messaging around vaccines and its importance so that people understand the importance of it. Enough time has passed to provide the outlets for people to get vaccinated. We're running now over 240 locations across the country on any given week. And frankly speaking, those who have made the effort and have understood the message and responded to the message to go out and protect themselves, and by extension their families, their workplace, and their sporting environment, should not or no longer be grouped with those who have not, and indeed be placed at a disadvantage when they are trying to solve the threat that we all collectively must solve. So the Prime Minister has been very clear. The time has come for us to resume normality as best as we can, still sensitive to the threat, but pivoting to a life with COVID, because we're not going to get rid of COVID. COVID is always going to be around. Hopefully one day it becomes the common cold, where we are so immune, or we have the right instant medication, that you hear your friend have COVID, it's like the friend have cold, and he go home for 2 days, take 2 medication, and he's back out. In the initial stages, because of a novel virus, it wasn't the case. But enough of us, and enough of us in the world, I think, have heeded to the long-term solution, which is vaccination. And I think Jamaica and Jamaicans, rightly so, have an expectation that if they take the vaccine, if they make the precautionary move and the protective move, then they should not be given, apply the same restrictions on them. So, as Minister McKenzie says, today represents an important step forward in normalizing life with COVID, by giving an opportunity to those who have taken the steps that are necessary to protect themselves and those around them, an opportunity to get back to some of the traditional activities. And what better way to do it was to show Jamaica in the head office, right? Beating the US when the date comes. You're confident of that, Mr. Ricketts? Notice I said beating the US, you know. Don't make the 5,000 people them turn up there. Because you would probably, you know, you probably would have to go into quarantine. But so that is really what it's all about. So Minister McKenzie has said that we have devised a system, events authorization system, and that events authorization system will allow persons who are interested to attend, firstly, to be fully vaccinated. And it's important to say what fully vaccination means. It means that you must have had your second of a 2-jab vaccine at least 2 weeks prior. So the process is complete. Remember now, when you get it today, it takes 2 weeks before it starts to provide you with the effectiveness. So don't go online and apply if you just take your vaccine yesterday or less than 2 weeks prior. But there are more than enough people who have done that. So if it's a 1 dose, Johnson & Johnson is 2 weeks after that single dose. So you must have a 2-week period for double, the second, or the single dose to be considered fully vaccinated. And by the way, we have the records. We have the database. So the first thing is that you're going to upload on the database, on the system that Minister McKenzie spoke about, with your vaccine card and an ID, so passport, a national ID, driver's license, and the Ministry of Health and Wellness team will verify the authenticity of the vaccination card using our online database. Once the information is verified and approved, the ministry will pass this information on to the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. And of course, I know he's working with the JFF, so they will also have access to that qualified applicant, basically, qualification by virtue of vaccination. And that person will be able to purchase a ticket to attend the match using a QR code that will be generated as part of the ticket purchase. So you will only purchase the ticket after you have been validated and approved. It's very important. So first thing is to get the approval, and to get the approval, you have to be vaccinated. Essentially, what we will create, hopefully, is an arena. And by the way, I'm fully vaccinated, so I'm going to apply to. How is that, right? I would like to see the match, and I'd like to say, to encourage others through the process. Once you have done that, we would have created the 5,000 audience in the arena. There may be some special arrangement within the facility for some social distancing. The facility holds about 27, 28,000 or thereabouts, 28,000. So 5,000 is a fraction of the full capacity, which allows us sufficient spacing. You may have to sit 2 or 3 seats apart so that you don't, create the closeness that could put you at increased risk. You will have to wear the mask that is required, and there'll be sanitizing stations and the things that we do to preserve the integrity of the environment. So we're basically creating a sanitized bubble that allows those who have taken the trouble to get vaccinated to go in and worry about nothing but to cheer on the Jamaican team to victory and to feel good about it. And you can make as much noise as you want, because we want the players and the team to feel encouraged. As I said before, we have over 330,000 Jamaicans that are fully vaccinated and another 50,000 single doses, so that's closer to 380 plus thousand Jamaicans. Maybe in the next couple of days leading up to the game, more will qualify because the 2-week period applies every day. So you may have maybe 950,000 Jamaicans who, out of that 5,000, will be allowed. Now, it's a drop in the bucket, but the minister has made it clear. This is a pilot. To the extent that it works, We will tweak it accordingly, working with the minister, and other sporting events will follow suit based on the principle of vaccination to protect those who are participating and to get us back in that mode of normality and living with COVID. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm available to answer any questions. I close by just encouraging those of us who are not vaccinated, get vaccinated. Go online, 8881-LOVE, go on the Ministries website, visit one of our vaccination centers, because vaccinations are safe, and this truly represents the way to get back to normality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Tufton. I see President Ricketts kind of cowering in a little trepidation at the thought of the match. Don't worry, so we'll all be cheering you on. The Honorable Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport is online, the Honorable Olivia Babsy-Grange. And so we want to ask her to make her presentation at this time. Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. All right. I just want to, I hope you're seeing me okay here, because I'm speaking from across the waters. So, Minister McKenzie, Minister Tufton, colleague ministers, President Ricketts, I just want to greet my colleagues and all the specially invited guests here today. And today is really a historic day. I'm so happy to join you all at this very important event as we announce plans for the Reggae Boys Home World Cup qualifier against the United States on November 16. We're using this event to signal a very significant change in how we will manage sporting events going forward and other such events. As you know, my ministry has been advocating for and working with various sports federations towards the safe resumption of sport in Jamaica. And I have had full support from my colleague ministers. And so today, it's just a wonderful feeling. Joined up government and working together, we have been able to achieve this. So last year, June, we developed a roadmap outlining the requirements and the process for resuming training and competition. And using that roadmap, we were able to safely host the ISA Boys and Girls Championships, development track and field meets, the National Senior and Junior Trials, the National Premier League, as well as the National Championships for table tennis, golf, tennis, chess, equestrian, squash, triathlon. Swim meets at the National Aquatic Center, the West Indies versus Pakistan Cricket Series, the Sunshine Netball Series, and 2 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. This required a whole of government approach, working with our various sports stakeholders. So this afternoon, I wish to record my appreciation to the team at the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, led by my colleague, Desmond, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, led by Minister Tufton, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, as well as my own team at the ministry. Working together, we have been able to host many sporting activities safely without putting our athletes, our communities, or our country at risk. Today, I'm proud that we are now in a position to take the next steps in our management of sports events during this era of COVID-19. We're now in a position to readmit spectators, albeit in a limited way, beginning with the World Cup qualifier between Jamaica and the United States at the National Stadium on November 16. It will not only be a test for the Reggae Boys, but for the entire nation as we move into the next phase in the management of COVID-19. We want to ensure that all our people can return to competition, and we also want to ensure that the fans can return to the match venues. But fans cannot return until we achieve a high level of vaccination across the country. Therefore, I use this opportunity to appeal to everyone who has not yet gotten vaccinated to do so. Get your shot. Get vaccinated. The Ministry of Culture, Gender and Entertainment and Sport supports the vaccination effort and has facilitated the inoculation of approximately 900 athletes. In fact, our athletes who were going to the Olympics, they were facilitated and they got the one jab, most of them. So we stand ready to facilitate the vaccination to all our athletes and coaches. And all you have to do is call on us. I know the press would have questions to ask. So I just want to indicate at this point that today is a great day. I'm very happy. I just want to thank Minister Tufton and Minister McKenzie. I want to also thank the Prime Minister. We have had challenging times, but we are now on a path that things can only get better. I also want to thank the staff at the Office of the Prime Minister, who have also worked very hard in working with the Ministry of Health to ensure that we have the system in place. So thank you all the best, and I look forward to that crowd, that limited audience in the National Stadium at the office when we will go out there and the Reggae Boys will win. So now that important day will create Jamaica's football history under this new system. Thank you all. Let's cheer on the boys and let's go for it. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Grange. Without further ado, permit me to welcome the man in charge of football in Jamaica, the president of the Jamaica Football Federation, Mr. Michael Ricketts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Minister Christopher Tufton, Minister of Health and Wellness. Online we have Minister Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender and Sport. Of course, those persons from the respective ministries, representatives from the Kingston and St. Andrew municipality. Special welcome to our public health and emergency management team, inclusive, of course, of Drs. Ennis, Campbell, and of course, Mr. Baker. Members from the Jamaica Football Federation, Vice President Anderson, staff member Janice Rose Brown, and others, members of the media, all other persons present. The Jamaica Football Federation is pleased to be part of a paradigm shift in the sporting landscape of Jamaica. This shift is to be reflected in the announcements that have already been made. I must begin by expressing my personal thanks, as well as that of the JFF, to the Ministries of Local Government and Rural Development, Health and Wellness, and Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport. They have been very integral in the development of this document that will permit spectators in the National Stadium on November 16. We want to also thank the respective teams from these ministries who have also played a significant role. I must also thank my team at the JFF for being a critical part of the process. Through a series of initiatives, discussions, and input from experienced private and public officials and football administrators, sports in Jamaica is looking to slowly but surely turn the corner on a COVID-19 traveled road. Indeed, a journey. On November 16, 2021, Jamaica's Reggae Boys will face the second-ranked team in CONCACAF, the USA. Jamaica's position in the current qualifying round demands that as a nation, we unite in support of the team and, of course, the technical staff. This unity needs to be visible to the team. Having fans, the 12th man in the stands at the stadium, is indeed a huge part of the process. The JFF is pleased that the first decision that emerged from our meetings and consultations is that 5,000 fully vaccinated paying fans will be allowed in the National Stadium, 1,000 in the grandstand, and 4,000 in the bleachers. This is no ordinary exercise. I have never in all my life been invited to a Minister of Government's office 3 times in 72 hours. And that just underlines the intensity of Minister McKenzie's efforts as he, along with other ministers, try to have some normality as it relates to spectators at games, especially at the National Stadium. Thanks to the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, a platform will be launched on November 3 that will allow fans to purchase a ticket through the uploading of your vaccination card, your identification card, and the answering of a few very basic questions. After successful validation of one's vaccination status, authorization will be given to go ahead and purchase your ticket. You will then have started the process. Please note the following guidelines relevant to the successful execution of this initiative. Only fully vaccinated persons over the age of 18 can apply to purchase a ticket. This age limit will be reviewed for upcoming games. Through the application process, each applicant's vaccination status will be confirmed utilizing the Ministry of Health and Wellness established database, combined, of course, with a government-approved identification card. You will receive a response to your application, which will allow you to proceed to purchase your ticket online. Because of the limited numbers, persons getting approval will have to purchase their ticket in 48 hours in order not to hold up the opportunity for others. Tickets will be available for purchase as of Wednesday, November 3. And Minister McKenzie has committed that he will be the first person to get on the platform to purchase a ticket. Sure, Ministers Tufton and Grange will have something to say about that. I want to emphasize the following. We have entered a new and sophisticated phase in our sporting landscape with much more reliance on the digital world. The pandemic has forced it on us, but it was inevitable. I encourage Jamaicans to join us in this new world. There may be challenges in the process, and we will put in place hotlines for persons who face such challenges. These numbers will be advertised in the coming days. Match time is 5 p.m. on Tuesday, November 16. We will be opening the gates at 1 p.m., much earlier than normal. This is in an effort to prevent any crowding at the entry points. The JFF is working with public health authorities to have in place a network of trained COVID-19 marshals as well as security personnel to monitor compliance with the respective protocols. We will utilize bullhorns, signage, and our match announcers to remind persons about the health protocols as well as entry points. There will be very limited physical outlets for persons to purchase where they may have challenges with online purchases. These outlets will be advertised, and let me remind you, there will be no selling of paper tickets. Refreshments will not be available in the stadium. On the periphery, people will be permitted to do their vending. There will be a series of medical protocols to be guided by public health authorities as well as JFF Medical Committee, and I urge everyone to observe and comply. It is important to stress that we see this game as a pilot, as a test. We must pass this test. We might not be able to sweeten the ocean, as they say, but it has to be best practices. Again, I want to remind you all, it is of absolute necessity that we get vaccinated. If you miss the opportunity to be at this game on November 16, January 27, we engage the leaders in CONCACAF, Mexico, at the National Stadium. Again, I must, and it would be extremely remiss of me, not to mention the efforts of the respective ministers, Messrs. Grange, Tufton, and McKenzie. And again, Minister McKenzie was most strident in his efforts, and we must express our highest regard as we try to bring some normality to the sport. It's the start of a process. I'm going to encourage you all to help us, because qualifying for Qatar will have a huge social impact, not just on the sport of football, but on a nation. Again, I want to say thanks to you all, and may God bless you, and hopefully we'll make a profit on November 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President. The events authorization system, this is a moment we have been waiting for, the demonstration as to how the app will work. And so I want to invite Mr. Luke Mulholland he's a project coordinator of the Amber Group, who will carry us through how the system will work.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'll be hosting the demo of the application today. It's going to be a video demonstration. All right, so the first step of the video, you'll be presented with a OTP login. The OTP would fall into two categories. The OTP would fall into two categories, which is email address and phone number. So I'll go ahead and enter my phone number. Once submitted, you'll be presented with a code, and this code you'll enter and it's validated, automatically validated on the back end. User would submit, you'll be presented with 3 categories to select, which is local registration, overseas, and support team. The form would fall under basic demographic details along with uploading of the vaccination card and ID. So I'll go ahead and select local registration, enter my basic details, which is first name, last name, date of birth. Please note the date of birth is restricted by 18 years and over, so no minors. Once that detail is entered, I'll be able to upload my vaccination card, the first page and the second page. Once submitted, I'll also be prompted to upload a copy of my government ID, which would be driver's license, birth cert, driver's license, passport, etc. The user would be able to submit after completing all these details. They'll be presented with a reference number. You're also able to click and be navigated to a dashboard where you'll see a form of the status of your application. You're able to view all the details you have submitted to be reviewed. Once reviewed, the user would be granted approval status. Yeah, once approved, the user will be granted approval status. The certificate would be valid for 48 hours, after which the user would have to reapply the application. So that QR code you're seeing in the authorization form or certificate would be able to be printed or downloaded. Once presented to the ticketing authority, they'll do a scan of that QR code and the application will automatically updated. The user is able to also complete up to 10 additional applications for other users. And that would conclude the presentation of. You can read on your phone, right? Yes, it's also available on mobile and web. Provide the QR code to the ticket purchase. Yes. Yes, so they'll demonstrate, they'll show the code or the certificate on your device, and the ticketing authority will do the scan, and it would automatically upgrade the status to approval. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Mulholland. Members of the media, the floor will be open to you momentarily. May I ask that you use the raised hand feature, and you'll be recognized, and so you can ask your questions. Yes, yes.
There is a query as it relates to the pricing of the tickets. There will be actually only 2 categories. So it's in grandstand, which will be 7,700, and the bleachers, which will be 2,000. Thanks.
I recognize Robert. Robert, can you ask a question, please?
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Robert Daly from the Lena. And it's for the Minister of Health, right? You hearing me? Hello?
Can you, we're hearing you.
Yeah, my question, Minister, is this. I think my family took the Pfizer vaccine from November 3rd, right? But now we want to attend the game, right? And the vaccine, when we check to get the vaccine now, they are telling us to wait, right? Take, for example, if we get that vaccine this week, can will they be allowed to attend the game?
No. Can I respond? Yeah, okay. So I did say in the announcement earlier that you can only access tickets to the game if you are fully vaccinated. So if you're yet to take a second dose of the Pfizer, then it means that you're unlikely to be able to access because the game isn't how long from now? How long is it from now? 2 weeks? Unless you take it today and benefit in 2 weeks' time, which means though that you may be long down the list if others go before you. So there is a possibility, but it's a function of first come, first serve. But you must be completely vaccinated, meaning having a second dose. All right, thank you.
Robert Williams. Go ahead, please, Robert.
Thank you very much. This is Robert Williams from IRFM. Minister McKenzie, 5,000 fully vaccinated persons. How did you arrive at 5,000 considering that the national stadium can hold up to 30,000 and would be able to hold far more than 5,000 socially distanced?
I said earlier on, this is the first time we are using the system. So we start with a number that we think, based on the discussions that we have had with the Ministry of Health and all the stakeholders, we start with a percentage of the stadium. It doesn't necessarily mean that for the next game it will remain at 5,000, but this is our first trial, and we wanted to ensure that we put everything in perspective. So that is why we started with 5,000.
Thank you, Robert. I now recognize Daniel Wheeler. Daniel, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. This is Daniel Wheeler from the Gleaner Sports Desk. Two-part question for the for Ministry of Health and maybe for both local governments. One, can you give the medical assessment as to why 5,000 was an adequate number to start the pilot? And as well, what would be the approximate turnover time for those who are applying for tickets to get the approval using the system?
I think both of those were addressed, but I'll repeat for your purposes. The 5,000, as Minister McKenzie said, is a function of a decision around the pilot stage of this approach. We wanted a manageable number. We wanted not just to test it's not just a matter of the health protocol, which is the physical distancing, which that would certainly allow. It's also a function of testing the software, of just managing the process in its entirety. So it's not solely a number decided on based on clinical considerations. It's an overall piloting. As the minister said earlier, that number will adjust as appropriate over time once we can be sure that the process as now prescribed works. So 5,000 to start. We'll get better with time once we perfect or improve the system. I think the question was also answered about the turnaround, 48 hours. But Minister,
yes, the question was posed about the turnaround. So you have 48 hours in which to complete the process. So once the 48 hours have expired, it means that you'd have lost the opportunity to purchase. So what it means is that from your first go, the authorization will be possible, but anything after 48 hours, you'd lose that opportunity.
I recognize now Coach's Desk. Please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, man. Good afternoon, everyone. The question is that, being that this system is a pilot system, is there any thing put in place if there is going to be any glitch in the system? Like a plan B?
We are putting in outlines to determine what the challenges are. And as I said before, this is a test case. So we will, if it becomes necessary, make the adjustments that would be required. And we would have to make those adjustments within the perimeter of the Disaster Risk Act and based on the advice of the Ministry of Health. But I am hopeful and I am positive that we will not have any real issues with the system.
Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Going once, going twice? I recognize Brian Lewis. Brian Lewis is online. Please go ahead, Brian. Not sure if Brian is hearing us. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'm asking this question about the avid football fan who probably wouldn't have the required mechanism to go online to purchase tickets. How will he be assisted?
Okay, we will be looking at the possibility of setting up, as it is now, maybe 3 locations, one in Western Jamaica, one in Central Jamaica, and of course, at the offices of the JFF, where persons who have challenges can physically walk in and be assisted. But again, please be reminded, you must be fully vaccinated and you must be over the age of 18, and once you walk into any of these facilities, you will be assisted. Again, no paper tickets will be sold. It has to be online, but we will provide physical assistance once you walk into any one of these facilities. But again, there will be no paper tickets being sold.
I want to say, though, that we are not going to alter whatever position that has been taken as it relates to registering online. So what the GFF is doing is not secondary to the process. It is to offer advice and to assist persons who have challenges in accessing or understanding the application process. I want to make that clear that there are no ticket outlets. What they are establishing are outlets to offer assistance to persons who find it difficult in either understanding or following the process that is required. I want to make it clear, and it is abundantly, I have to make it abundantly clear so that we don't have a situation where persons feel that you can turn up and then you can purchase or require and get tickets at these locations. Not so.
Much, Minister. We have just 2 questions remaining. The first from Prince Moore. Prince, we recognize you. Please go ahead with your question.
Great. My question is for Dr. Tufton. It's not necessarily sports related, but it's about the vaccines. Dr. Tufton, we know that some vaccines would have expired last night and would be dumped. Could you give us details as to how many vaccines expired and would be dumped, and if you think this will be a recurrent problem?
Well, first of all, I can't give you any details because I have not gotten a report since the end of the weekend. Been busy trying to ensure that the centers are up and running for this morning, particularly in light of the fact of the numbers for second jab for the Pfizer. So we'd have to get that information later on. In terms of the whole issue of vaccines that are discarded because of expiration date, it's not unusual. Jamaica's immunization program has many occasions when we discard vaccines. It's regrettable, particularly in this case, because we would like to see far more Jamaicans getting vaccinated. I don't think in this instance it's a consequence of lack of access, because we have doubled and tripled the locations around the country. I don't think it's an issue of communication, because the communication has been out there. We have done house to house, we have done community blitzes, the Prime Minister, myself, others, the members of Parliament. So I think we really have an issue now with trying to ensure that persons can recognize the importance of this, but also, very importantly, as is being represented here today, that we start to give to those who are vaccinated the opportunity to begin resumption of normality. And those who represent higher levels of risk who are not vaccinated, they will have to, I believe, in the interest of the greater good, be subjected to more testing and greater restrictions, to put generally. Because I do believe the time has come where those persons cannot claim ignorance and certainly can't claim a lack of access in most of the cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The final question goes to Asher Wilkes. Please go ahead, Asher, with your.
Hi, good afternoon. My question is for Minister McKenzie. I want to find out, considering that fully vaccinated spectators for the FIFA qualifiers will be considered to attend, will be able to attend rather, is the government strongly considering a reopening of other sectors, for example, the entertainment sector, which was previously known as the blame for the spikes of COVID-19?
I don't know about the blame. What I do know, that all of us in some way has contributed to the spike by our actions. This authorization system that has been developed will be kept within the Ministry of Local Government, and we are going to be using, as I said in my opening comments, we will be using this as a means of assisting to have events that persons are desirous of having, so we can use it for, any form of events, sports, church, whatever you want, where mass, gatherings are going to be, and it is going to be done on a controlled basis. So we are not just using this as a means for football only, but since sports is the immediate one, it is being rolled out for the question of sports. And we will look at other events when those applications do come in, whatever events that we would consider once it falls within the protocols that we are laying down.
Of this. Yes, go ahead, Minister.
Yeah, I think during the presentation I had said 800 and odd thousand. The fully vax are 330 plus 50. So it's more like 480, 490,000, depending on what happens over the next few days. So it could be as high as 500,000, 400 plus thousand. 400 plus thousand Jamaicans who would qualify to apply. Also want to say, which wasn't said, I got a little note on it, that I know that I was surprised the question wasn't asked about our children and their own mental state to access their games. Normally these things are family events. As we proceed and tweak and improve on the system, and as we seek to vaccinate more of our young people, then of course they will also be entitled. So I believe certainly, if not by now, on the end of year, early new year, you will see a greater number of that age cohort being a part of it. And I think it's important, an important message to send, because sports is such a universal attraction, and Jamaicans are accustomed to going to these events with their family members. Thank you.
Minister, that brings us to the end of this very special occasion, and we look forward to the working of the app, and we are sure that it will be received enthusiastically by the sporting public. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.